Hey guys, Igor here once again. We're back with Procreate 3.2, the latest update, which has introduced some new features and changed some old ones. And I thought it would be nice to go back in and redo an overall tutorial video. So let's open up our Procreate app and let's get right into it. So here we have the gallery page. As you can see in the middle top page, I have a group of images, and this is one of the new features that you can organize your pictures by. You just simply click and drag on an image, drag it over an existing image, drop it into the other one, and suddenly a group is formed. So you can title the individual pictures as well as the group itself by tapping on the nameplate. Below the nameplate, you will also see the number of images within said group. Tapping the plus icon located at the top right of your screen will enable you to create a blank canvas. From here, you can choose a different range of sizes and higher and lower resolutions, as well as you could import existing images or files by clicking the import button. Clicking the import button will give you a few options. You can import from iTunes, Photos, or from the cloud using things like Dropbox. If you select Dropbox and go into it, from here if you select a file, it'll be imported directly as a new canvas for you to work on. By swiping to the left and displaying a small menu, hitting duplicate will not only clone the exact image that you have, but it'll also retain all of the layers found within said image. Now swiping left once again and hitting share, we're able to export our file in a variety of different formats of our choosing. So let's go ahead and open up a drawing. I'll select this little bird that I drew the other day, and we'll take a look at all of the different menus starting with the top right. So the top right, you'll see a circle, and this represents the color picker. So here you can choose a different hue, and now you have access to all the different values and the saturation. So if we choose, say, something black, now we'll be able to draw with this color. You can also tap the empty spaces on the bottom right to save this specific color into a color palette, and you can click the little arrow to the right of the name of the palette to choose between ones that either you've created or, as you can see here, are preset. Hitting the three buttons to the left of the color you've selected will open up a different menu where you can input custom colors according to the RGB scale. To the left of the color picker button, we have the layers option. So opening up the layers option, you will see a plus sign to create a new layer. This creates a new blank layer. You can also swipe to the left of an existing layer and duplicate it. This not only creates a new layer, but obviously also takes all the existing content from the one that you've duplicated. Clicking and holding a layer will allow you to arrange it on the very top or the very bottom, positioning exactly where you'd like. The background layer is not something that you can delete, but clicking on it will allow you to choose the base background color. And again, you can click the three buttons to input a very specific RGB number. The latest update also introduced folders, and in order to enable this feature, you swipe a layer that you've selected to the right, as well as another layer that you'd also like to select to the right. And you can see one is a lighter blue, that's the current one that you're on, and the second one that you've swiped turns a darker blue. We can even grab the layer below that. Now to form them into a group, you can hit this top right icon, and as you can see, a new group is created. Tapping on the group name, you can rename it, or you can flatten these into a single layer. I'm going to go ahead and delete the duplicate, and I'm just going to flatten the blank layer with the one that we've selected. creating a new layer and highlighting both of these once again. Now if you have a group of layers selected, the minus button to the left of the grouping layer just allows you to delete all selected layers at once. You can have more layer options by tapping onto a selected layer. Here you will get a reference pop-up, the ability to clear the layer, which is different than deleting said layer, the ability to fill a layer with a color, to copy, select, or rename. Next thing we're going to take a look at is reference layers. So here I've duplicated the bird and colored him in with some solid colors. Now opening up the Layers tab, I enabled reference by clicking onto the layer and selecting the reference option. As you can see, if I click it again, the reference underneath the layer name disappears. So turning that back on, what does this do? Let's create a new layer and have the selected layer laying under the bird. If I grab whatever color I want, so this green color, and I drop it over the red here, as you can see, when I hide the bird, all of the red color was replaced by this very lime green. So this is, I'm guessing, a thing that you're going to use a lot with comics and inking. Not really something that I personally use. So just for those that want to know. Moving on, clicking on the layer again, you will have a clear option, fill option, copy, select, and rename. So the difference between clear and deleting the layer itself, when you have a selection made, clicking onto the layer and hitting clear will only delete what's in the selection. So the selection tool combined with the clear tool is really good for cleaning up edges and other mistakes throughout your piece. Let's go ahead and center our little bird. Let's disable the reference layer option, and from there, so moving on, when you tap the layer, you can see the copy option. Clicking on copy on top, you'll see copied selection, and now you have access to this selection by going into the little toolbar option and hitting the paste from clipboard option. As you can see now, we can have a lot of these birds if we wanted to, and do whatever you want with them. We can pinch and grab multiple layers to combine them, and then hit delete, returning us back to our original layer. Clicking on the layer again, we have the select option. Once clicked, you can see the background changes to these striped lines going all the way across the layer where there's no current content. Clicking and holding the selection tool will bring up the selection tool options without deselecting the object. And at the bottom here, we can click these two arrows facing each other to invert the selection. So now the striped lines are going through the bird itself. So this is a good way of either deleting everything that's outside the bird once it's selected, or adding stuff to it. For example, here, if we have the selection and we want to draw within it, we just go ahead and do that. Or we can create a new layer while still having the selection on. If we disable the bird here, you could see the selection is still keeping the exact shape. And I can go ahead and color all of that in, or I can click and drag and drop the color to fill in the rest of this selection. Clicking on the little select tool at the top left will remove the diagonal lines, allowing you to just move on with your life. Clicking once more onto the layer, we have the rename option. This one is very self-explanatory. You can just type in a name, hit enter, and now your layer has a name. Here we have the erasing tool. You can click on the eraser once again to pop open the brushes menu, and keep in mind this is a selection of brushes to erase with. So as you can see here, if I have the round brush selected, it'll use the round brush as the eraser. But if I want to switch to, say, a more textured eraser, I can grab something like this, and now I have that option. You can also click onto the specific brush and change all sorts of different menus here. This is for the real hardcore people that want to customize their stuff exactly how they'd like, but that's the option there. And if, say, you tweak the settings too much to the point where you don't like the brush, you can obviously just hit reset, and it'll reset the brush to factory settings. To the left of that, we have the smudge tool. So here I've duplicated my layer not to mess with my bird too much. And you can see it's starting to smear very lightly. If I bring up the brush size, then the effect becomes much more apparent. As well as the erase tool, clicking on the brush, on the smudge option, as well as, just like the erase tool, hitting the smudge button again will pop open the different brushes. Here I have a couple custom smudge brushes that I got from Tara, and you can select the brush, you can click on it, change all the different properties just like with the eraser. And that brings us to the brush itself. So here I have, again, some custom brushes, but it works just as it would with any standard ones. Under the sketch, for example, we have the pencil, and if you choose one that has tilting your Apple Pencil will give you a broad stroke. And just like with the smudge and the erase tool, clicking onto the existing brush that you have selected will pop open a menu. You can also drag a selected brush to the left, and here you can see a quick reset option. You can duplicate this pencil, so let's say you like the effect but you want just a slight tweak, you can duplicate, and there you go, you'll have multiples. Sharing, I'm pretty sure, is exporting an existing brush as a file, putting it out on the web, allowing people to download it. To add a brush to your arsenal, here you can click the plus button. You have an untitled brush that you can drop in the image of and do everything you need to do to create new brushes in the app. Or you can hit import and import files from online directly into your iPad, and then from the iPad dropping them into Procreate, allowing you to use custom brushes like I have here. So now we move on to the selection tool, and this is actually, so now we move on to the transform tool. Clicking the transform tool, you'll see an array of different options at the bottom. Magnetic means that you can snap and move in very specific directions, like 60-degree angles and 45-degree angles, as well as perfectly horizontal and perfectly vertical. Clicking the little door icon with the arrow allows you to flip horizontally, vertically, rotate, as well as space out to fit the screen. We don't want to do that. Freeform means that you can move without any snapping and be very precise in how specifically you want to put stuff. The X reverts the transformation back to what you had before you went into the transform tool. And this undoes and then redoes the transformation. The selection tool, this is a great tool right here. We have automatic. By when you click and tab, it'll try to automatically select things on its own. Here we have the freehand, and you can drag and draw the line, or you can tap to the next point for a more geometric way of selecting something, and very precise. If you need a straight line to chop a piece of a drawing, you just use that straight edge and cut right in. Once you've created a selection, you can use these two. You can click the little button near automatic to instantly create a new layer of whatever you had just selected, as you can see here. Now, aside from that, you have the two arrows, which switches between isolating the selection and isolating and reverting the isolation. Clicking the X will just revert to whatever you had before you click the selection button. And then you have the undo and the redo added at the end. Now we have the adjustments tab opened up. Here you can change everything from opacity to all the different blurs. You have a noise option, sharpening option, and any of these options, when selected, you can click anywhere on the screen and drag your finger across, and as you can see along the top side, you'll see a percentage bar, and that indicates the amount of percent that the effect is applied. Here at the bottom we have the hue and saturation, so you can tweak the different amounts of hues, the intensity of them, and the brightness and darkness. Along the bottom here you can click and tap the little eye that's crossed out to see the before and after preview. So holding it will show the before, letting it go shows what's being applied. And just like with all the other adjustment tools, hitting the X will undo it to its first state. The color balance, again, just like you would find in Photoshop or something like that, has all the various options at the bottom, the low end, the midtones, and the shadows. Actually, the first one is the highlights. As you can see, it's written up top. Clicking the X will undo all that. Here we have the classic curves. So you can change the curve of the contrast and the RGB scale. So you can change individual reds, blues, greens. And finally, we have the recolor. This one's pretty interesting. So dragging over a specific color, you can go ahead and open up the colors tab and choose something that you want it to recolor to. Dragging the slider across will also try and recolor. It's kind of the threshold of how different a color has to be before you change it. So as you can see, all the way slid down does not affect much. And going very low on the slider, it kind of looks messy. That's it for the adjustments tab. Finally, we have the actions tab, and these are everything from importing images to exporting, things like flipping the canvas horizontally, not just an individual layer. You can also flip vertically. You can copy an entire canvas to a clipboard and just drop in copies of said canvas by using the insert option right there. You have the metadata, which talks all about the specific stats, how big the file is, the recording time, because yes, Procreate does record what you're drawing and you can export the drawing file. Here we have the share tab, and you can share your artwork, or as we have previously said, you can export the video for the artwork, and it exports just like all the other files would. Under the video tab, you can do a time-lapse replay. You can do a time-lapse recording, but you can also capture the screen with all the different buttons, all the different options and brushes, instead of the time-lapse replay, which only shows the canvas and what's being applied to the canvas. You can also live broadcast using Periscope. I've tried it before. Pretty cool. Here we have devices and all the different third parties stuff that you can use. I don't own any of these. The Apple Pencil works fine, so I'm just going to stick with that. Here we have the preference. If you're right-handed, you can turn on the right-handed interface, but I'm a lefty, so I have it on the left side here. You can also change the delays between how long you have to hold something for, like the color picker to pop up, or responses with quick menus, which I have actually disabled because I don't really like how they work. You can have the pressure curve edited in case you are really light armed, or you like to push down really hard. And here we have the advanced gesture controls, which I don't really mess with, like I said before. You can tap this menu here. That's what I've changed it to, and you can access things like new layer and all that, for those that want it. And then obviously we have the help settings. You can restore purchases, because one of the purchases is the perspective guide. So enabling the perspective guide and then editing it will allow you to have these perspective lines that you can also lock the assist on, and suddenly you're restricted to drawing within these lines. So it's a cool little feature. I recommend it for those that have a hard time with perspective and want to learn and get used to it. It's pretty helpful like that. We can take off the assist now. And finally, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. We have the gallery, but also we have our little drawing tab here. You can move it up and down. If you want to put it across to the other side, obviously you have to go in and change the interface from left-handed to right-handed, but we have the brush size up top and the opacity slider right below that. Then we have the undo and redos along the bottom, or you can tap with 2 fingers on the screen to undo and 3 fingers to redo. A 4-finger tap removes the HUD and only leaves this little button at the top left to bring it back, or you can just tap with 4 fingers again to bring it back. Very helpful. I like it. It's a quick, fun little gesture. I use the gestures a lot more than the buttons to speed up workflow. Clicking gallery will return you to the gallery. If suddenly you're panicking because you can't see any other drawings, remember, we're in a folder. The other drawings are all still here. And that about covers a quick overview of Procreate. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Another thing I do want to mention is I have already made a video on it, but the new way to alpha lock is to click with 2 fingers on a specific layer that you want alpha locked. Slide to the right. Once you let it go, you'll see a checkered board behind it. And now when I try to draw across, it will not go outside the lines of the existing content on the layer. Undoing that, if I run my 2 fingers across again, as you can see, it has removed the alpha lock ability. Tap with 2 fingers to undo. Once again, locked, alpha unlocked, locked, unlocked. It's very quick, very easy. Alright guys, that's going to do it for a quick overview tutorial with a 3.2 update. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, I might do more in-depth things regarding very specific features and all that in the future. Yeah, just let me know, and I'll see you next time.